Lutz and Glory. I'm Kathy.
I'm Bronwyn.
And I'm Will.
And this week, we are recapping the 2015 Rostelecom Cup, or the Cup of Russia. And so we're going to start off with the men's event, with Javier Fernandez winning the gold medal, and kind of a breakout event for the silver medalist, Adian Pitkaev of Russia. What did you guys think of their performances here?
I really enjoy Javier's short program. It's really interesting for him. It's kind of different than anything he's ever done, and I appreciate that he is trying to go outside the box. Definitely a very strong performance for him here today. He won his second gold medal of the Grand Prix season. Now he's going back to the Grand Prix final in Barcelona. So very exciting for him. I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of the long program, but that's just me personally. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I appreciate the. We had talked about this in our Cup of Russia recap, Kathy, but I appreciate that Javier is exploring new territory with his short program. I think it's different from anything he's done in the past. He doesn't really have a foundational character to work off of. He really kind of. It almost seems like you have to start from scratch with programs like that and that sometimes. He's just such an innate natural showman, and it's difficult. Not that it's difficult for him to radiate a feeling that's genuine, but it's difficult for that to have a core that comes from within him rather than within another character that he just inherits. But so I appreciate that. I still don't think he's 100% comfortable with it. That concept in the short program, but I like the choreography, and I think he's doing a great job with it. His long program isn't one of his best programs. I feel like it's choreographically, I don't think it's very specific to the music. But I mean, those opening quads were, I think, two of the best quads, elements, jumps I had ever seen him do. They were so gorgeous, so effortless, so big. So yeah, that was great to see from him. And we did see him unravel a little bit, but still scoring well enough to pretty much blow away this field by a little less than 21 points over Adian Pitkaev. But yeah, great stuff from him. What are your thoughts on him, Kathy?
I'm really warming up to his short program. When I first watched it, I thought, I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought it was a little bit, ridiculous with all the the gestures and things. But I definitely think upon the second viewing, I'm definitely enjoying it a little bit more. I think it suits his style, and it's a good step for him after the programs that he's done in the past. And I think that I agree with what you said about his long program. It starts out well. It starts out really strong, both technically and musically, but it kind of loses steam over the course of the program. And we saw that with his jumps. It looked like he was maybe rushing his landings a little bit towards the second half. Still, he recovered really well, and I think that his win here is a really great progression because, he's won both of his events, so he's going to be definitely a challenger for the podium at the Grand Prix final, and, we're still not sure yet of how the ISU is going to handle those, entries. There's word that there's going to be one entry from the Eric Bompard Trophy, but so we don't know who's going to be there, but regardless, Javier is definitely, I think, one of the favorites to be on that podium.
I agree, although I will say it's very interesting that even though he is the reigning world champion, he's not really favored right now, I would say. Depending on how Yuzuru does at NHK, and Patrick Chan most likely will be going to the Grand Prix final, regardless of any of tiebreakers, depending on how the ISU does it, but he will most likely be going. It'll be very interesting because I feel like those two are still the favorites, yet he's kind of the underdog.
One of the interesting things that I did notice, though, was that his program component scores in the long program were a little bit generous. He scored about 4 points. The composite program component score is about 4 points higher than what Yuzuru got at Skate Canada for his program component score. Now, granted, there I'm pretty sure the judges were saving up for when Patrick was gonna skate, and they didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket. We've talked about this before. It almost seems to be Patrick and Hanyu at the very, very top battling it out for each other for the top spot, and I feel like Javi is just the slightest rung down in terms of edge quality and skating skills, but I mean he's really, really obviously one of the best in the world. He's the reigning world champion. A thing I want to get into are the three Russian men, Pitkaev, Kolyada, and Voronov. I especially want to talk about Voronov. I thought it was interesting how Voronov is arguably the most experienced and the most established of these three Russian men, both at Europeans. He's the reigning Grand Prix final bronze medalist, and with the sixth place finish, it doesn't look like he's going to qualify. I don't think there's really anything he can do. And among those three Russian men, he had the lowest program component scores in the long program. I believe he had 77, Pitkaev had 79, and Kolyada had about 80. So what do you think that judges may be trying to communicate to Voronov, and what do you think the judges may see in Pitkaev and Kolyada that they think is possibly degenerating Voronov?
I want to talk about Pitkaev first because he won the silver. With Pitkaev, he is probably one of the more, not to say artistic, but he is definitely one of the more watchable Russian men that we've had in a long time, I believe. He does actually connect to his music, and he has very nice line, and his jumps are they're also very nice. They're not the best part about his skating, but they are also very solid. Yeah. He kind of reminds me, watching his long program, he kind of reminds me a bit, not exactly, but a bit like Satoko Miyahara, in that they both do connect to their music. I do think Satoko is more expressive than Ariane is, but they are both kind of have that quiet musicality that you have to, you can you can definitely tell that he's connecting to his music. I would like to see it a little bit more in the face and a little bit more projected outward to the audience, because he does have that quality that can't really be taught, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I think that even still, it's a marked improvement from who he was last season. Last season he was, I think, barely a blip on anyone's radar, but coming in here and having such a strong performance, the British Eurosport commentators talked about how, as a kid he used to come to this competition every year and watch all the top skaters skate, and he's actually from Moscow, so it's not just like it's a hometown crowd in the literal sense of the word. So the fact that he was able to come out and skate so well, I think, is a really great testament to how much he's improved and how much potential he has. I think that what separates him, like you guys said, from maybe the other Russian men here and in the rest of the field is that, he has this sort of old soul in that he skates like somebody much older than he is, and he has the jumps and he has the artistry. They're not, I wouldn't say they're perfect by any means, but it's a good base to go off of, and he has this subtle interpretation of the music, and I like Bronwyn said, I wish he would sort of maybe learn to project more into the audience, draw them into his performance with him, because that's such a key quality. But not a lot to complain about him, honestly. And speaking of the other Russian men, Kolyada, he was also sort of a breakout here, finishing in 5th place for his first Grand Prix, I believe. That's a great thing, and he's one of those skaters who, he's very young and he uses that to his advantage. He's full of personality, maybe not so much finesse, but
Mhm.
the ability to really entertain the crowd is a big component in his skating, I think. And Voronov, I'm a bit concerned because, he had such a successful season last season, I would say. He made, the Grand Prix final. He medaled at the Europeans. Um, he and Kovtun were sort of neck and neck in the
Mhm.
standings. But this season it looks like he's lost some of his momentum, and I just don't know how long it's going to take before he gets that back.
Yeah, I think a thing that's of note is he didn't skate poorly here. He was good. Like by his standards, especially, he skated well. Um, I mean, barring a few mistakes here and there, he really did not look like he was in poor shape. He was landing most of his jumps, and to finish in the middle of the pack, given that, and especially given his status, is a little bit concerning. Before we talk about NAM quickly, I want to talk about the two Americans, Ross Minor and Adam Rippon, both putting together great skates here, especially in the free program. Let's talk about Ross Minor's short program for a second. Bronwyn, you've been raving about this.
I have been. I have been talking about this all weekend. I love this program. It's like I have not been this touched by a program in a long time. I don't know what it is, but something just resonates with me. And there was such a freedom about Ross's movement. Everything looks so easy, like anyone could do it. His jumps were phenomenal. There were so many transitions. The lunge into, it's hard to put into words how much I love this program. The music suits him perfectly to a T. I'm like, and we'll get to his long program too, because I'm not sure the music fits him nearly as well. But his short program is very Ross. I never really got Ross's skating until this program because I always liked him. I always appreciated what he put out, but I never really understood. And now I'm totally hooked. I'm a huge fan now. Definitely, just probably the best performance by a U.S. man for me so far, except maybe Adam's long program in the same competition.
Yeah, Bronwyn, I definitely like that point you made about Ross. I always really liked him, and I always thought he had fabulous attributes to his skating, but he didn't really have that originality, that uniqueness, or that specific style that really garners you fans and attention and scores. But I think he's definitely found that with the short program. I think the judges really appreciated it, and I did too. Again, the long program doesn't fit him as well as it could, but I think the programs together are a good package for him. Great to see him come away with this medal. We've seen him on the scene for so long, and it's great to see him do well. I wasn't really, I wouldn't say I would have expected him to medal here, and initially he didn't. But there was the change from level 3 to level 4 spin. A bit of a disappointment for Adam, but who still skated great in the free program, though. So definitely great performances by the U.S. men. What did you guys think of Minor and Rippon?
I was really impressed by Ross, especially because like you said, he wasn't. I didn't really expect him to be on the podium at this event, but I think what's so special about his programs is that, they're really cohesive, and I agree that the short program is more suitable for him than the long program, just because I think the short is more tightly choreographed. I think it's more nuanced. But he has this, this sense of presence and this sense of like self-awareness that comes with, age and experience and all that. But at the same time, it's also innate, and you can't teach it. And it's I think what makes his skating so special. But it's not something that you would be able to recognize, at first glance. What I liked about Ross's long program, despite the improvements that could be made is that he really reflected, the rises and falls in his music. Like he would change the pace of his the pace of his skating in accordance to, the speed and tempo of the music. And also great job by Adam, as we mentioned. He got a personal best in the free program by quite a few points. I was really proud of him, especially considering that, he took out the quad Lutz and he replaced it with a double axle, which is significantly, easier of an element, but I think that that kind of paid off because without, the weight of the quad Lutz on his shoulders, he was able to skate with freedom and abandon, and I think that the result was, even better than anything we could have predicted.
Now, what do you guys think about Adam doing a quad Lutz in his short program as opposed to his long program?
It's a bit of a tough thing. I think it's a thing he still needs to train more and get more consistent before he puts it out in competition. Because while it is great that that the jump itself has had exposure under the big lights and and in front of an audience, in front of judges, I think that's great, and I think it just takes so much guts to be able to do that. I think it's been a bit of a handicap for Ripon in terms of his scores and his placement, because we all have seen Adam rise in the sport and we've all seen him progress in terms of his skating skills, and I wouldn't want the quad Lutz to be something that holds him back, because he is such a lovely skater. And I think without the weight of the burden of doing the quad Lutz in the long program, and B, point-wise, we know from our friend Deb, who figured this out for us on Twitter, she said that the clean double axel was worth 0.03 less than the quad Lutz in the long program at Skate Canada, but he fell on that quad Lutz, so then there was no fall, there was no deduction for the fall, so it ended up being worth more than the quad Lutz itself. And I think from an emotional standpoint, like I was saying, it takes that burden off his shoulders, and he was able to, I think for one of the first times in his career, really be liberated and free and just skate with this effortlessness, sophistication, and coolness. Because I don't think the triple axel is a trouble jump for him anymore. He's been landing them consistently in competition and practice, and I think it's great to see those improvements. That second triple axel especially was absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, that was really, really great to see from Adam. I would have liked to, again, if he had just done a quadless short program, maybe he probably would have been second here. But, hypothetical, whatever. So happy for him.
I agree.
What do you think? Yeah.
I agree. I think his long program at Nationals last year was the beginning of this huge breakout for him, because his skating has been so brilliant since then, honestly. He has, his worst program was his Skate Canada long program, I believe, in terms of, like, he fell on the triple axel again, and then it was kind of like, oh no, is it back? But no, it's not back. And like you said, Will, he was very free on the ice. He was second in the long program here, and that's huge. I think that he is on the right track, and I'd be looking at him as one of the main contenders for the world team this year. I'm not sure. I don't want to get into Nationals predictions just yet. I don't want to say, but if we're looking at Nationals predictions, or like looking at the Nationals podium, I would say Adam is one of the biggest contenders for that podium. And I feel like if he continues to skate the way he has been skating, he will make the world team.
Yeah, so I think at this point in Adam's skating, it's kind of the same story with Ashley, how people were counting her out because, she was older than the median age of, like, ladies figure skaters, and they thought, she'll never get a consistent triple, and she proved them wrong. I think Adam is doing sort of the same thing in that, he's more consistent now, than he's ever been before, and that's so rare to see for a skater um, to really blossom towards the later end of his career. But I think that I do wish, he would train maybe an easier quad if for his short program. I know that he's had, I think, a quad toe in the past, and for whatever reason, he's decided to stick with the quad lats, and I respect that, definitely. I think that at this point, he's calling the shots, and he deserves to call the shots, but maybe it's not the best strategy, points-wise. Of course, he's still doing very well he's still doing very well for himself regardless. I know that if these programs can be skated clean, they would be, masterpieces. They're already so great and so enjoyable to watch. But, just going clean would give it that extra oomph, I think, that these programs are missing.
I agree, although I will say, I know that Adam has tried the quad toe before. I believe he said he feels the most comfortable with the Lutz, and that is why he continues to go for the quad Lutz, because he doesn't feel nearly as confident on his toe or on his cell to go for the quad. So I will say that, although he still is getting there, but I don't know. I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Nam for a hot sec. Finishing in 7th place here. Again, a bit of a disappointment for him. I know he's set really high expectations for himself, and I think he has. I don't think his technique is great, but he's uber consistent, and you have to respect that. He skated great technical programs, both at Skate Canada and here in Russia, but placing not as well as I don't think he would have hoped to. We saw in the long program, his technical element score was about 89, and his program component score was about 71. And we don't typically see that type of disparity, that big of a disparity, in the sport, really. So we've seen from Nam this entire summer, like on Instagram, he's been posting the side-by-side quad toes with Javi and all those things like that, which is great. It's great to get a clean, consistent quad. That's change in your back pocket. But I really do think he needs to work more on speed, for sure. His spins need a lot of work. And just the depth of edge and really just general performance quality. I think there are just a lot of areas that require improvement for him, and I think if he could be great, really, really great, one of the best in the world, if he's able to just maybe get another jump, add a jump coach to the team to sort of tweak his technique. Though it seems to be working for him now, I don't think it's the most sound. And just work on general upward projection and performance and depth of edge. I think those are the main things he needs to focus on to really propel himself forward in the sport. Let's talk about pairs. The winners, Stolbova and Klimov, really, really great to see this from them after their disappointing 4th place finish in Milwaukee last month, scoring 214.70, a great score for them. Nice to see them improving. I'm still not the biggest fan of either of their programs. I feel like in the hodgepodge of these amazing teams from Russia, China, and even the United States now, I think that scores-wise they're not getting lost, but their programs for me aren't sticking. I'm not fully invested in their programs like I am with some of the other top teams, like Kavaguni and Smirnov's long program, and even their short program. I don't know. I don't think they need new material because this seems to be working for them. I mean, they did score almost 215 points here. But, yeah, great to see this from them, though. We'll see if this qualifies them to the Grand Prix final. I'm pretty sure it does.
I think so.
But we'll see after NHK. So what did you guys think of Ksenia and Fedor's performances here?
I will say that pairs seems to be the widest open field this year.
Mm-hmm.
Almost anyone could win. Unlike last year when Duhamel and Radford were basically guaranteed to win almost every competition they entered. I think this year, because now that we have Sui and Han, we have Voloshisar and Trenkov if she's not injured. We have Sabova and Klimov now that they've come back. We have Kavaguti and Smirnov. We even have Aliona Savchenko and Bruno Massot, who competed at a Senior B and scored very well there. So I feel like this was a huge for Sabova and Klimov, because now they are back in that world title conversation, because before now they definitely were not. And I was kind of worried that them withdrawing from Worlds last year was the beginning of the end. But thankfully they proved me wrong, and they are back on top. Like I said, still not really convinced I love the programs, but they're working for them, and they're getting good scores.
Mm-hmm.
So, while they're not my favorite pairs team this season, I do respect what they are doing. I do congratulate them on a win when they absolutely needed it.
Yeah, I think it's great that they were able to come back from a disappointing performance at Skate America, and they just looked renewed, and they looked like they were just ready for competition again, because I think at Skate America they were a little bit lackluster, and it looked like their heart wasn't in it, that they weren't enjoying being on the ice with each other. And that's something you need, especially in pairs, because the discipline largely depends on your interaction with each other. And here they were, they looked much more confident. They skated with a lot more ease and confidence, I think. And technically they were head and shoulders above the rest of the crowd. Unfortunately, Kavaguti and Smirnov didn't have as much success with their throw quads as they did at Cup of China, which kind of opened the door for Stobov and Klimov. And this is a team that's, I think has something to prove at this point, because especially with Voloshisar and Trenkov coming back, so they have stiff, domestic competition as well as on the world scene. And it was great to see them try the triple in the free skate, because that's virtually unheard of in pair skating. And they had a really great triple flip throw triple flip in the short program, and I think that set them up really nicely for a win here. I'm not the biggest fan of their free skate. I think I'm not really understanding the concept behind it, or it doesn't appeal to me personally, but I do enjoy the short program. I think that they use it well. I think Senya has a lot of attitude, and she's showing it, and she's expressing it. And so they're not, I don't think they're not known for their natural chemistry with each other, compared to some of the other pairs teams, but I think they more than made up for that with their other strengths.
I agree. Let's move on to Kavaguti and Smirnov, because they are coming off a win at Cup of China, kind of unexpected. And they came in here, and I have to say I was very impressed with their elements in the short program. And I actually like the choreography. I do not like the music at all. I don't like it. I don't. I'm sorry.
It's weird. It's totally inexplicable, but I kind of love it. I'm watching it, and I don't know, I'm just like swaying. I feel like I should have a cocktail. I don't know. I feel like I should be sitting in my study, petting my cat, watching that program. But I don't know. I really like it, and I'm behind them this season.
I love them. I just I don't like the music at all. I was sitting there, and it's it doesn't really it just doesn't seem like it suits them as a team. But it works. The program itself, it works. The choreography works. But I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this feels like something at the end of one of those 80 movies, where they're at the prom and they're slow dancing. That's what it feels like to me. But I will say that the elements, like I said, in the short program were fantastic. The triple toes were so solid. They were just, boom, done.
Yeah.
Nailed them. So I was very impressed with them. And honestly, I was kind of worried that they were falling off at the end of last season, but they've come back with a vengeance, and I'm very excited to see them, especially now that they are going to the Grand Prix final for a second year in a row.
Yeah. I definitely appreciate they've kept their long program, their Manfred Symphony from last year, but I don't think it's stale at all. It doesn't feel like recycled. They still bring this newness and this vitality to it that it's really compelling. It makes you want to watch them. The two of them together have always been so striking on the ice. And I definitely think that the choreography, especially in the long program, accentuates their strengths. So yeah, great to see from them. Any thoughts on them, Kathy?
With Cavaguni and Smirnov in the past, it's kind of been up and down for them. They were sort of unpredictable in that you could never tell whether they were going to have an off day or like be good, because when they're on, they're one of the best in the world. I don't think anybody can dispute that. But it was interesting that if you look at their scores in the free skate, they got significantly lower program components than they did at Cup of China. So I think that that's largely because, different judges react differently to the type of programs that they're putting out. And I wouldn't say, that their programs are for everyone. I have to agree with Bronwyn. I was not a huge fan of their short program music. I thought it was a little bit over the top, but they definitely sold it as well as they could. Just some technical things. It was a little worrisome that they got only a level 1 on their death spiral, and the margin between Sobov and Klimov and Cavaguni and Smirnov after the short program wasn't all that large. They had room to come back with a strong free skate and possibly overtake them, but unfortunately, the little mistakes added up. So moving on to the bronze medalists, Peng and Jing, they actually came straight from the Eric Bompard Trophy just last week, so they didn't have a lot of time to rest up or to recover, and obviously there's travel time. But
I actually read, not to cut you off, but I did actually read that they didn't have time to practice until they got to Russia.
Oh God.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate, and especially with any team or any skater that has 2 Grand Prix assignments, they usually try to space it out so that they're not right next to each other. I don't know what happened here, but they still did very well for themselves, considering. What did you guys think of their programs?
My issue is I don't know, I can't really pinpoint it. It just doesn't work. I don't think, especially the long program. I don't know if the long program isn't my favorite of theirs. I do think they could do more. They could just do more. I don't really know what it is. Especially, I'm comparing it too much to their Shostakovich long program last year, which I absolutely loved. I thought the choreography was fantastic. Lori Nickel did such a good job with that, and I don't know. It just the material this year doesn't really live up to my expectations of them as skaters. I think that they could have produced better programs for this season. I like their short program music, but I don't know. It just doesn't work for me as last year, the same way last year's programs did. And again, 193.04 is okay. It's good for them. But again, it's the same deal that we've seen in Russia and that we've been seeing in China for the past 10, almost 15 years or so, is the depth is just unbelievable. You have to be on your game at every competition with your strongest material out there. And I worry for them a little bit in terms of their domestic standings, their domestic rankings, and their international rankings. But, you know, good to see them pull away with a bronze medal here. And I don't think it's I don't think there are any major issues. I just don't think they can't fix the depth of their country. You know, that's not a thing that they can just. Well, I mean, if you were Tanya Harding, you could. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, but yeah, you know, good to see them do well here. What do you guys think of them?
It becomes an issue of, you know, being good isn't good enough, especially in a field as stacked as the Chinese pairs one. And I definitely preferred their short program to their long program. I thought it was more focused. They had fun costumes and music, but it wasn't, you know, cheesy or anything like that. And they had, you know, a huge triple loop. It was really great. And I think that it's nice to see that she especially is really coming into her own in terms of expression. She's really opened up and she's projecting out into the audience, whereas, you know, previously she was a little more closed in on herself. But in terms of the long program, it was really worrisome when they tried the throw triple Salchow and she fell and he almost fell, you know, throwing her. And then
Wasn't it a quad?
Oh, yeah, sorry. The throw quad Salchow. She fell, and he almost fell throwing her. And then after that, there was like a 10 to 15 second break where they couldn't get it back into the program. And that was really worrisome because sometimes it's a sign that, you know, maybe you're not as well prepared or you haven't spent long enough with the program. And I think that, you know, that was a fluke mistake, and they'll obviously improve on that over the rest of the season. But just something to know and maybe watch out for in the future.
Yeah, I would be willing to give them a little bit more of a pass because, like I said, they hadn't had time to train until they got to Russia, and they were at the Trophy Eric Bompard, which obviously got canceled. And so they went through a lot in the last couple of weeks. So I'm more willing. I'm not saying, like, I'm not going to excuse their them struggling, but at the same time, I'm willing to be more understanding as of why, because they've been through so much in the last couple of weeks. I will say I do agree with you, Will, that their programs last year were so good. It's really hard for these programs to live up to what they had last year. Mm-hmm. But everything that you guys both said, they did go have a lot to deal with recently.
Yeah, and all that taken into account, they still pulled away with a medal here, which is great.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the rest of the field briefly. Fourth place finishers, Tara Kane and Danielle O'Shea of the United States, pulling up after they were sixth after the short program to finish in fourth place, getting a pretty good score here, 181.23. They had a gutsy free program. I think they're in the mix, definitely for the world team. They're definitely neck and neck, especially with Castelli and Tran. I think they're really going to be fighting, and we won't know with Haven and Brandon back into the mix, hopefully by nationals. We'll see how that all pans out. But Kane and O'Shea putting together two really, really strong, passionate programs. I think they just love skating so much, and they seem like such great friends. They're such good people, like we've talked about. They've communicated with us before, and they're just such amicable, genuine people. And I think that shows through their skating, and it gets you behind them. And I think that's something that's so important in this sport, kind of digressing for a little bit. I think that's something that's really important in this sport, not just for the sake of notoriety, but I think it's really important to garner those fans because it'll spark that flame for your sport, and it makes you, those people and your fans that love you, make you realize how much you love the sport and how much you love to skate and how much you wouldn't want to go any other path. And I think that that's definitely an ideology that they've fostered over the years, and it's just great to see from them. What do you think of them?
I agree. Not not only are they just really awesome people, like I said, we talked about it, they are really so nice and very just, like I said, awesome people. But their long program, I was so impressed. It was almost, there was just one minor mistake that I can remember. But it was almost like their long program at the U.S. Classic, which they won. They just connected to their music so well. They have so much, they also have a lot of chemistry together, and they've just got some amazing elements. Danny O'Shea has amazing Salchow technique. Like, it's excellent. I feel like we've talked about that before, but their side-by-side Salchows, when they land them, they're just blow me out of the water. But yeah, no, I agree, and I feel like it's definitely between them and Castelli and Tran for the second world spot. I feel like Shemeka and Knierim have the first spot locked up pretty much, but I feel like it's going to be very interesting to see what happens come nationals.
Yeah, this is a team that strikes me as really determined, and that determination, is a really strong driving force, and they definitely improved upon their performance at Skate America, where they finished sixth, and they were able to get a personal best in the free skate. Again, great to see, also great to see, like Will said, them fostering this relationship between the fans, and it's really symbiotic in that, when people encourage each other, whether it be skaters or viewers, it's really for the betterment of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any other thoughts about pairs before we move on?
I think we can move on to ice dance. So we have Caitlin Weaver and Andrew Poge winning this event pretty definitively. It was kind of interesting. I feel like people were wondering to see after Capolini and Lenotte beat Chalk and Bates at Cup of China. It was kind of interesting to see where this between Weaver and Poge and Capolini and Lenotte would end up, and Weaver and Poge did end up on top. I'm not sure about their programs this season, but at the same time, I wasn't really that sure about their programs last season, and they ended up being amazing, like especially the free dance. I've talked about it before that I love the free dance for personal reasons, the music, but at the same time, I'm still not grabbed by it. It's just, there's no story behind it. They need to give a reason why we should care about that dance, if that makes sense. Because it's definitely a beautiful program. There are some great choreographic moments in there, but I'm missing a general purpose behind the dance. And like I said, why should we care about this dance? And I really want to love the dance, but I'm hoping that by the end of the season, much like the free dance last season, it'll turn into something excellent and amazing and magical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially with dance, I feel like fans are somewhat unrelenting. Not like to blame anyone. Like like most people who watch dance are unrelenting in that they expect masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece with these top teams. Like, and the very best of the best are able to produce masterpieces each season. Like we had seen with, I think we can consider them legends in the sport, Davis and White. And Virtue and Moyer. I don't think I'm then stepping many boundaries by saying that. But I think it just feels like they sort of ran out of either time or conceptual conjuring of something, and it just seems like the program was kind of slapped together. Like they used choreography that they've used in the past. And at some points in the free program, and they chose pretty music, which is nice. I like the music, but I don't know. I agree with you, Bronwyn. It doesn't captivate you. It doesn't grab you. And back to my original point about it, just to be that very, very best, which I think arguably they are the best in the world right now. They're one of the best teams in the world. You have to keep producing. You have to keep progressing, and I don't think this free dance is doing that much for them. I like the short dance, but again, it's like pleasant, not incredible. But a good win for them here. People were interested, myself included, to see this battle between Weaver and Poge and Capellini and Lenotte. And Weaver and Poge ended out on top. Still a pretty close call, though. It was exciting to see. Any thoughts on them, Kathy?
So I've actually sort of changed my opinion about their free dance since I last saw it. When I first saw it, I wasn't really sure, what they were trying to get at in terms of concepts. But I think that with watching it again, it's really grown on me in that I feel like they're really making an effort, to connect to the music. I just wish the program and its choreography had more build, because the music, it starts out a little bit softer, more moderate, and then it grows to something really powerful and really like broad and sweeping. And so I wish that was reflected a little bit more in Weaver and Poge's actual skating. But I think at this point I really wouldn't I don't see them changing their programs. It wouldn't be worth it in my opinion. I'm more concerned actually about their short dance. I think that while the free dance it's not perfect, I think it's at least memorable, and the short dance is just, I feel, generic, and I feel like aside from the costumes, which are beautiful, I think there's not that much that holds your attention when you're watching the short dance. It's technically, very it's technically very sound, and they're getting all their levels and they're hitting their twizzles, but it leaves you wanting a little something extra.
I can agree with that. Especially because there's so many memorable short dances this season. That it's hard for them to stick out. And now with the free dance, I will give them a little bit of leeway, because we were saying the same thing about their free dance last season around this time. That wasn't really, it wasn't really that memorable. It didn't grab anyone's attention. So I'm remaining optimistic that it'll get better.
Yeah, I still have images in my mind of them at Worlds in the free dance when they did that point where they were like reflections of each other in the choreography, and I remember they were just gliding like feathers across the ice. I don't know why that image is so memorable, like indelible. And I want that program I want this free dance to get there. I don't think they should scrap it. I think it definitely has a lot of potential. Let's talk about Capellini and Lenotte. Definitely great score for them here. It was great to see them pull off the win, a big win at Cup of China, defeating Chalk and Bates there. Chalk and Bates, Capellini and Lenotte, and Weaver and Poge have all qualified to the Grand Prix final with their placings at their respective Grand Prix events. I think Capellini and Lenotte have such strong basics. I think in terms of skating, they are strong. I think they're stronger skaters than Weaver and Poge. I would say that they have stronger twizzles, and they have deeper edges, and I'd say more interesting lifts than Weaver and Poge. Not to discredit Weaver and Poge, they're absolutely fantastic technically. But Capellini and Lenotte, to me, have that slight edge in terms of technique. In terms of their program, again, it's sort of the same deal with Capellini and Lenotte. Actually, last year, I was never really a fan, even by Worlds, of Capellini and Lenotte's free dance, their Danse Macabre free dance. I don't know. I never feel like they gave it 100%. And I don't think it was at a place where it could have been 100% and could have been the best in the world, the program itself. But I think that's different than the case. I think the case this year is different from last year. I think their programs have potential, but still, the way it was at Cup of China, I wasn't grabbed the whole time. I wasn't glued to my computer the whole time. There were some points that just kind of lose you. And I do think, though, that the music, especially in the free dance, is like complex and has a lot of dynamic contrast, which is great to see, and I think they utilize that well. But I don't think it's quite there yet. But I think it has potential to be there earlier than it was last season, if that makes any sense.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I feel like the free dance is kind of a return to what they're familiar with. Last year they tried to go outside the box a little bit with their Danse Macabre free dance, but this season I feel like it's more reminiscent of the program that they won Worlds with in 2014. I actually do like the free dance a lot. I think it suits them very well, and sometimes, like, we talk about sometimes skaters trying to go outside the box, but sometimes it's good to find something that you can stick with, and, like,
Especially in seasons like this, like the midpoint of the Olympiad, while some may argue that this is a good time for experimentation, I think it's good to build up your status and build up potentially great rankings and be the best you can be before you reach Korea in 2018. And I think it's a smart choice for right now, especially for this season, to stick with what they're comfortable with. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I agree with you. I do feel like last season, and you can experiment a little bit this season, and sometimes if it works out, like we see with Yuzuru Hanyu and his long program, it works out. But sometimes if it doesn't, you could end up falling behind a lot more than you planned right before a couple of years before the Olympics. However, I do think that this program works for them very well. I have to say I absolutely love Anna Capolini's free dance dress. It is stunning, like absolutely stunning. Not only does the illusion match, like the dress itself is fantastic. She looks amazing in that free dance. But yeah, no, I think this is a great sign for them, especially since last season started out so poorly for them. For them to be able to make it back to the Grand Prix final is a very good step in their path towards returning to the world's podium.
Yeah, Bronwyn, I like what you said about their free dance being sort of a return to what they're familiar with, and I don't really see that as a problem. I do wish, they would take some opportunity to maybe be like just incorporate more originality into their programs, since their short dance and free dance are a little bit, I think, similar in concept. But it's not a real. I don't think it's really an issue because they're so. They have many qualities that more than make up for that lack of maybe creativity. But I really enjoyed their short dance. I think it's really lively, it's fun, it gets the crowd going, and I think at this point they should focus on, if they want to be world champions, if that's a goal for them, and I'm sure it is, I think that their focus should be on the technical elements and how they can make them more difficult, because they're amazing skaters, and we know they have like an established reputation. They're just, I think at this point, they're just trying to climb back to the top.
I agree, although I will say returning to what they know already is a good base because there's something familiar with while they work on the technical elements. I've talked about this before with other skaters, but I feel like this does apply to Capolini Lenote. If they do want to get stronger in their technical elements, trying to return back to the world's podium.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're doing a great job of that. And I think another team that's doing a great job of rebuilding from what happened last season is the bronze medal team, Victoria Sinitsina and Nikita Katsalapov of Russia. I think they're just gaining momentum, both on the ice and in their status in the sport. I think, in terms of their skating, they're so aggressive. They just go for everything, and I think that's great to see, especially in ice dance, where the casual viewer may be like, "No jumps, next." I think it's great. That speed and that aggression and tenacity is super captivating, even for the most casual of figure skating fans. But I like to see them building upon what they've done at Skate America. Again, I really really enjoyed their short dance. I think it's super refined, very elegant, and while it is still aggressive, they still maintain the sort of languid flowing quality of the music. It fits well with the music. The choreography and their style, they acclimate to the music really well. While I say that about the short dance, but I think the free dance, there's definite potential there. I choreographically, it's a little bit generic. I feel like you could have other music playing in the background and it would still work pretty well. I don't think that it's super specific to the music, which is something that they could work on as the season progresses. But putting together a really strong score, and it's so great to see this after. I think last season I had written them off. I had selected Elena Ilianique as the winner if you split between her and Nikita, because he paired with Victoria and she paired with Ruslan, and initially Ruslan and Victoria were partners, and it seemed like it seemed like Nikita sort of had the short end of the stick, but now he's really coming into his own with Victoria. I think they're much more comfortable with each other than they were last year, and I don't think that this means this is the end for Ilianique and Ziganshin. I just think they're having a bit of a rough patch this season. I like their their short dance is my guilty pleasure. Their short dance and Kavaguti and Smirnoff short programs are sort of my guilty pleasure programs this season. Like, the music is just so like out there and garish, and I love it. Like, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I what a great short dance, free dance Ilianique and Ziganshin put together here. Still were barely behind, just behind the other Italian team, Charlene and Marco, finished in 4th place here. So, what do you guys think about Sinitsina and Sinitsina and Katsalapov and Ilianique and Ziganshin?
I'm very impressed by the progress that Sinitsina and Katsalapov have made. They look much more like a team. I would say Nikita is still the star, quote unquote, of the team, but he doesn't completely overpower her as he did last year, which was a huge problem for them, in my opinion. I do prefer Ilianique and Ziganshin as a team, just because I find their program so much more captivating, and I do like Sinitsina and Katsalapov's short dance well enough, but they're not exactly new or novel concepts. I mean, obviously, Ilianique and Ziganshin are not the first to skate the Queen, even this season. But I do feel like their programs this season are more interesting than Sinitsina and Katsalapov's. But I do think that also Sinitsina and Katsalapov have made such strides, not only as a team, but also technically. Their speed is, I've mentioned it before, their speed is excellent. They get such great speed and ice coverage. I continue to question the usage of Swan Lake, but but otherwise I am very impressed by Sinitsina and Katsalapov, and I do think that this is not the end for Ilianique and Ziganshin, obviously. I think this was just a fluke, especially the fact that he completely wiped out on the Twizzles in the short dance, but I feel like they'll be able to come back. What are your thoughts, Kathy?
Okay, so we talked a little bit about Sinitsina and Katsalapov last season, but I mean, this team I don't think you can even compare who they were last season to who they are this season, because it's like black and white, night and day. And I mean, they have so much attack, and Will is laughing, and they have so much attack, and they just go into everything with so much confidence. They go into everything almost knowing that they're gonna like pull it off. And I think that's an attitude that you need to have, going into every competition. And personally, I don't, even though I love this team, and they're near and dear to my heart, unfortunately, I love their free dance. Not a huge fan of their short dance, just because, it is the music. Ilanik and Katsalapov did skate their last short dance to Also Swan Lake, so it's kind of a question mark. But their free dance, I mean, I understand that it's generic, and I totally agree with you guys. It's nothing novel, nothing new, but the placement of the lifts, I think, in the music is so effective, and they really capture, the mood and the swelling of, the melody and everything like that. And I especially love their, I believe it's the second lift, the rotational lift, if I'm remembering correctly. I think that particularly is really well timed in relation to the music. And in the free dance, I also appreciate the fact that their costumes are sort of made so that she stands out. Like, he's wearing black and she is in this pretty royal blue dress, and I think that it makes for a striking effect because, like we talked about, Nikita's kind of the star of the team, which is rare among ice dance teams for the male partner to be, the center of attention. But this kind of gesture allows Victoria to kind of come to the forefront. And I definitely agree with you guys. I don't think that the mistakes Ilanik and Giganshin made were indicative of who they are as a team at all. I think that this was definitely a fluke, and we know they're capable of so much more, and their programs this season are really inventive, and props to them for coming up with programs that I don't think anybody else would be able to come up with. They're so original, and it's almost like in the short time that they've been together, they've developed this sort of trademark, this signature sort of quirkiness to their programs where you see it and you recognize immediately, that it's one of their programs. And that's something I really appreciate.
Yeah, I totally agree about with that. And a quick thing on Sinitsina and Katsalapov, I think the free dance music is so dynamic, and it requires the skaters to take the audience and the judges to so many different places. And I think they do a really good job with that. I think they're a very dynamic team stylistically, and it fits the music really well. So I will give them that for the free dance. But let's move on to the ladies. Obviously great to see a Russian sweep at home. It wasn't really a lock, though, I would say. I think we definitely expected skaters like Paulina and Rika and Elaine to be challenging for the podium, especially for the bronze medal ahead of Sotnikova, I would say, because I think Sotnikova's status was sort of unknown in terms of jumps. I mean, she did skate at Japan Open, but it was no one really expected how she would skate here. But great to see her come away with the bronze medal. We'll get to her program component scores in a little while. Let's talk about Radionova first and foremost. So happy for her. I was scared a little bit at Cup of China that she was sort of dissolving into the Russian soup bowl. I just felt like she was that was a stupid analogy. Oh my god. But yeah, the stupid analogy aside, I was scared that she was sort of getting lost in the obvious deep field of Russian ladies. Really, really great to see her fighting. It's almost strange. I almost am considering her a veteran, but this is only her second senior season. I feel like she's been on the scene for so long, which is great. I really am behind her, especially this season. I think her programs work for her a lot more than they did last season. Medvedeva also putting together 2 really strong programs, coming away with the silver medal. What do you guys think of those 2?
Annalena, I think people were kind of, as you put it, worried that she was dissolving into the Russian soup bowl, but she definitely proved that she was back and she's here to stay. Which is it's kind of weird because she's a world bronze medalist in her first trip to Worlds, and yet people were still kind of like, is she done? Will we see her again? But she's definitely still in contention, obviously. I was very impressed, and not only just by the technical elements, because she gritted those out. You could tell whenever she landed a Lutz, she was going for that triple toe, do or die, and she got it both times in the short program and the long program. But definitely, not only that, but she just radiates pure joy. And you can tell she not only does she do well in the technical element, she just loves to skate. And she loves to be on the ice. And she was so emotional after both programs. It was so nice to see something like that. Definitely one of the highlights of the entire event for me was Elena Radianova. She nailed it, both programs. Even if the Titanic long program is a little bit of a mess with the dialogue and My Heart Will Go On, but you still enjoyed it.
It's my guilty pleasure. Oh my god, I love it so much. It's so good. I just, when she starts talking and she's doing those spins at the end, it's truly iconic. I'm sorry. All right, continue with what.
You know what, even if it is a little bit of a mess, was anyone not enjoying it? That's my point, is that no matter how much of a hot mess the actual program is, she kind of makes up for it just with being herself and just being so joyful. Oh my god, it was so definitely one of my favorite parts of the entire event, and I'm very excited because I believe she gets into the Grand Prix final with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to see her in Barcelona again for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever really accuse Elena of, not committing to her program or not delivering in terms of execution, because she really gives it her all. Every time she steps out onto the ice, she's so much energy, enthusiasm for what she's doing, and you know that just by looking at her that she believes in these programs, and that's so important because no matter what music you're skating to, whether it be sincere or ironic or anything in between, that commitment and that element of convincing the audience is really important as a performer. And she has technically, she's rebounded also. I think I agree with Will. I was a little bit concerned for her after Cup of China finishing where she won the bronze medal behind Rika Hongo. I thought, maybe puberty is affecting her, maybe she'll take a little bit more time to get back into it, but she took almost no time at all. And as always, she has great flow in and out of the double axel. That's one of her strongest elements. And she's still telegraphing the triple a little bit, and I mean that Lutz technique, I keep bringing it up, but it's just like she goes into it like in a like 3-turn, and then she switches the edge over like at the last minute, which it works for her. She's on the correct edge, she lands it, but I'm concerned as to whether that will hold up. Regardless, she skated, wonderfully here. She got all new personal best scores. Her components were great. And yeah, I don't think she could have asked really for a better performance than she had here.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I think she did a great job. One other thing that I want to mention that I had already talked about a little bit, Sotnikova's program component scores, especially in the free program, I thought it was a little bit ridiculous. I thought she was given, I don't know, I just don't think her skating is or ever was as good as Mao's. And the fact that her program component scores are a few tenths behind Mao's long program from Cup of China is a little bit ludicrous. I mean, granted, neither skater had the skate of their life in the free program. There were the free programs at their respective Grand Prix events, but I just think while Sotnikova has improved, I think her technique looks better. Her spins are really good, and she does have solid control over her blade and good depth of edge. It's just not where Mao is, and the scores have to be reflecting that. That I was just frustrated when I saw that.
Agree.
But
I definitely agree with that.
yeah,
Not to cut you off, but just the fact that she got 69 PCS for a program where she was clearly exhausted
Yeah.
for at least half of it.
Yeah.
Her jumps looked amazing. I will say, except for the triple toes on the end of her triple Lutz, which I believe was a bit of a flutz. But otherwise, like her solo jumps I think everyone kind of forgot just how big her jumps are and how she is an amazing jumper.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree that 69 PCS was way too high. I really, and like I said, I actually like the Je suis malade program, not just ironically, but also I do genuinely like it. But like it works for her, and she's probably the most polished of all the Russian skaters, and definitely probably the most watchable for me. Just because she has very nice line, she has very nice spin, she has very nice elements. I'm just very confused that she could get such high PCS for, like I said, she was exhausted. She was like gas was out. Completely. And it's just, I don't agree with giving her such high scores.
She's not in competition form yet, I don't
No,
think.
she's
not.
I feel like she approached this the same way she approached Japan Open, in that, like, oh, it's my comeback, like, I'll be given the benefit of the doubt, because A, I'm the Olympic champion, and B, it's not really a competition yet. Japan Open, I mean. It's not really a full competition. And I think no one really made her cognizant of the enormity of these Grand Prix events and how intrinsic they are to building your progress over the course of the season. I don't know. It just didn't look like she knew exactly where she was skating. Honestly, it seemed a little not apathetic, but it just seemed underprepared in general.
Well, in her defense, she was dealing with injuries a lot. She had injuries before Japan Open, and I think she's still working on getting back to where she was before she won the Olympics. I mean, obviously she's aware of the enormity of Grand Prix events when you're building your season up, because she's been through it before.
Right.
I can agree with that. She was clearly underprepared, and she definitely did not approach it, the same way as one would hope that she would approach it. However, I will say, and in her defense, she was dealing with injuries a lot over the summer while trying to get ready for her comeback.
I also think part of the reason is that, she only has one Grand Prix assignment. So she's not, like, working towards the Grand Prix final, and she knows that. And perhaps, that's part of why she doesn't look 100% committed. But, I have no doubt that she's going to get into it more mentally as the season progresses. I thought it was interesting, though, that she was judged pretty harshly in the technical elements in her free skate, but I think the judges tried to compensate for that in the program components. That's my theory of what happened, because she got 2 downgrades, and her Lutz edge was called a flutz, and if you compare that with Evgenia Medvedeva, who is a known flutzer, she's been called for a flutz in the past. She didn't even get an unclear edge call, which was which I thought was kind of interesting for just that difference between the two. But again, Evgenia was far and above more. I think more technically prepared than Adelina. Again, you can't really. it's apples and oranges because Evgenia is coming in. She hasn't been injured. She hasn't been sitting a season out, and
Right.
Adelina
And she really has nothing to lose.
Sorry.
She really has nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Sotnikova. I feel like from seasons past, Sotnikova has, obviously the Olympic champion status to uphold. But keep going, Kathy.
Yeah, she definitely, I think, had the most to prove coming into this
Yeah.
because, after all the controversy, after Sochi, it was like, can she ever, replicate a performance like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so far, she hasn't, but she has so much time, to get back into her groove, and I have high hopes for her. Her technique is sound. She's a great jumper. She has great control over her blade, and I think her time on Dancing with the Stars Russia has definitely benefited her in that, especially in the short program. It's a really fun program, and she gets into the music, and she looks like she's enjoying herself. And that's not quite carried into the free skate. Of course, it is a more somber piece of music, relatively speaking. So she does, understandably, tone it down. But my point was that her off season hasn't been, for naught. She has, I think, improved in her artistry and her expression, and that's really going to help her, especially in, like we talked about, a field as deep as the Russian ladies. It's just unforgiving in that if you make a mistake, there's someone waiting in line to replace you, be it for the world team or for, whatever competition they're at. So, yeah, that's all.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. I know we're a little bit pressed for time, so is there anything else you guys want to make mention of in the ladies' event?
We can talk briefly about Paulina. I think that this is a much better start for her than she had at Skate Canada. She's definitely... I feel like her technique has gotten just a little bit... Like, her jumps looked a lot stronger, in my opinion. Her triple Lutz and I watched her long program, and her triple Lutz and her triple Lutz triple toe combination the triple Lutz was actually very, very good. I was very impressed with that. I'm still not the biggest fan of her long program. I don't find it to be very interesting. And like the thing is that I actually really do like Paulina skating. She's just we've talked about it before, she's so frustrating in that she's so stubborn, and if something is ruled by the judges to be wrong, she immediately blames the judges and she doesn't go back and say, this is something I need to work on. So those are just my brief thoughts on that. Definitely, I do want her to do well because, like I said, I actually really enjoy her skating. I'm not a big fan of the long program. Because it's not that interesting.
Definitely a step in the right direction, though, from Skate Canada.
Yes, absolutely. Finishing fourth, and honestly, in a very deep field, and honestly, she probably should have won bronze just because Adelina's program component scores were very, very, very high.
Yeah. Paulina, it is worth mentioning that she did score about the same score, a little bit lower than what she scored to win 4 continents last season. So I think she's doing all she can at this point in the season, and I think that's good to see from her. I do want to make a quick mention, though, of Elaine Chartrand's short program. I thought she was absolutely wonderful. I know, Kathy, she's one of your favorites. I thought there was such commitment to the choreography, and she was listening to her music, and she had the audience right there. And 67 is a good score. I don't think anyone would have predicted that she would have been in second place after the short program, myself included. Fabulous Lutz toe combination, and I think that gave her confidence to execute the rest of the jumps cleanly, especially the loop. She was a little bit off kilter and pulled it back in. Just that last footwork sequence is phenomenal. She maintains speed and flow and attack, and I think that's really what what her music requires of her. Again, a bit disappointing to see in the long program, but I was happy that she didn't have any type of a performance like she had at Skate America with that just disastrous free program. Any thoughts on Elaine?
I agree with you. I love the short program. That was like, honestly, Elaine, like program-wise, she broke out last season at Rostelecom, which means I'm convinced that like there's some sort of voodoo that's helping her out there because every time she nails that short program at Rostelecom. But definitely, this was probably the first time that I really paid attention to Elaine's program and not just the jumps. Because she sold it, and the choreography was interesting. I loved her entire look, too. I don't see a lot of people with the single braid. Not really important, but I was intrigued by it. I thought it was cool. I thought it looked good.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I was just, like I said, very, very impressed. The choreography was interesting. The audience was buying it. Her face, she gave a lot of face, but not too much face.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, very impressed by Elaine. I hope that she can keep this up for Canadian Nationals coming up.
Anything else?
Nope, I think we're all set. So, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at Lutz and Glory. You can read our blog, which we do need to update more frequently, but we have one, and it's lutzandglory.blogspot.com. And you can obviously subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you are watching on right now. So, I hope
if you haven't already.
Please do. We would love it. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate. We hope you enjoyed this recap of Rostelecom Cup, and we're looking forward to NHK next week. All right. So as always, for Lutz and Glory, I'm Bronwyn.
I'm Will.
And I'm Kathy.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side.
Yeah.
Chicken noodle soup,
Yeah.
chicken noodle soup,
Yeah.
chicken noodle soup.